We have some interesting things to discuss on today's show, but yesterday evening, Tyler Hero is officially named as an NBA All-Star, and I want to show him some love, but I also want to show producer Justin some love for making this dope Tyler Hero graphic. Spam your 14s down in the comment section to show Hero all of his flowers for making the All-Star game. I mentioned the loaded show. Yeah, the Heat get interesting news on Terry Rozier. That came out yesterday afternoon. Plus, I did want to go through an exercise on the back half of today's show, ranking the best Jimmy Butler trade packages that seem to be on the table for the Miami Heat. But before we get into all of that, do not miss out on our NBA trade deadline coverage next week on Thursday. I will be live on the channel breaking down the latest surrounding the Miami Heat and all the moves made in the NBA, so make sure you're subscribed and make sure you join us for that. We'll start with the interesting news because on Thursday afternoon, Wall Street Journal reported an exclusive report. NBA player Terry Rozier has been investigated by federal prosecutors over whether he manipulated his performance as part of an illegal sports betting scheme. And this is a very serious matter, and I know there was a lot of jokes flying on social media, but I wanted to keep it pretty serious on this episode as we're just reporting the news and not really my opinions. But what we know right now, Terry Rozier is not charged with anything by the NBA, by federal prosecutors. There is no charges on Terry Rozier. And there was already an NBA investigation that went down looking at the specific situation, and the NBA found nothing in the matter. More on that from NBA spokesperson Mike Bass, saying that the league conducted an investigation and did not find a violation of NBA rules. We are now aware of an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York related to this. And as we deep dive into what actually happened more and more, it seems to have come back to a game between the Hornets and Pelicans on March 23rd of 2023. And an interesting tweet here. Now, this doesn't prove anything, but I did want to show you kind of where dots may have started to get connected by federal prosecutors and the NBA when they investigated this. Because this guy here, Noah, who does daily fantasy sports stuff, says, is there any reason why there are 0 Terry Rozier props on any books or DFS sites? Is he out tonight? Did I miss something very odd? Look at the date. March 23rd, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. Fast forward and 2 hours and a half later, Noah tweets out this. Oh, and now Rozier just plays 9 minutes and then is out for the rest of the game. Conspiracy theorists are going to run with this one. And I am not going to make any accusations for Terry Rozier. I'm not going to do it. This happened when he was a member of the Charlotte Hornets before the Heat traded with the Hornets to get Terry Rozier. And in this country, we are innocent until proven guilty. So I am not going to believe anything actually went down for Terry Rozier in terms of throwing games for parlays or anything like that. I will not believe it until it's proven that he concrete did it. I do think it's a little odd, the situation with Rozier right now, and you connect the dots of him being pulled after 9 minutes on a day that his numbers on the books weren't there. It is odd, but I will not believe anything to be true until it is actually reported as factual information. But I do want to get your thoughts, and be honest with me. When you saw the news go on Twitter, you saw it go on social media, what was your one-word reaction to the Terry Rozier news? I was very shocked. I think that would be my word, but let me know yours down in the comment section. And I want to address this as well is because a lot of people hit me up on social media asking me about this. They asked if the Heat could get their first-round pick back since the Hornets may have knew about this and then traded him to Miami for a first-round pick in Kyle Lowry. The Heat would not get their first-round pick back from the Hornets. I do not think that would happen whatsoever, but they would get a lot of cap space if Terry Rozier was ultimately found guilty by federal prosecutors, which would then likely trigger a suspension from the NBA. And if we're going to be honest, we saw it with Jonte Porter. He would likely be banned from the NBA if he was actually found guilty of throwing games in the NBA. And that could be important for the Heat, and I will talk about it in a different lens just for a second, because Rozier's contract is pretty hefty. This isn't some random vet min type guy like Jonte Porter. This is a big-time NBA player potentially doing something like this, getting paid $24.9 million this season. Next season's under contract for $26.6 million. And as I mentioned, if he is found guilty and is banished from the NBA, that contract would just be absolutely eviscerated from the face of the earth. The Miami Heat would no longer be on the hook for paying Terry Rozier that money because of the suspension handed down by the NBA/ban. So if he was technically found guilty in the offseason, say this year plays out, and in June, the NBA bans Terry Rozier from the game in the league, that $26.6 million would actually come off the books almost like an expiring contract, and the Heat would then have an additional $26 million in cap space to use for next season or in free agency if it happened before then. So it is something we will monitor as more information comes out, but this will likely be a lengthy investigation and a lengthy process, so we will probably have no resolution on it whatsoever. And now we'll transition to something else. Coming up in just a second, we are going to rank potential Jimmy Butler trade packages the Miami Heat may receive before the deadline on February 6th. But before we get into that, we are sponsored by PrizePicks. Fitting sponsor for today's show, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's so easy to play. All you do is pick more or less on 2 or more player stat projections for a chance to win up to 1,000 times your cash. And in football, the big game is almost here. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. PrizePicks is also giving away a free pick for the game where Patrick Mahomes will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. And if you win, PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That is what you get when you use code CLNS. You don't even have to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. One more time, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Shout out to PrizePicks. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. All right, let's get into some of the Butler trade packages, and I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to my favorite in type of potential deals. These are not concrete offers to Miami. I want to make that abundantly clear, but what have been rumored, what have been linked out there by analysts and media. The least one that I'm intrigued by is Bruce Brown and salary/picks. Now, every package here is likely going to have salary/picks, which means some random contracts, but we'll talk about the headlining player coming back to Miami. Now, if Bruce Brown comes to Miami, I would need to get multiple first-round picks in return because I do not want Bruce Brown. I do not want him on this roster. I think he is very redundant if we're going to be honest. I think Bruce Brown's a fine role player, and his $23 million expiring salary this season is obviously very appealing, and he can be a decent 3-and-D wing off of the bench. But my thing is with Bruce Brown is like, what does he do better or differently from Jaime Jaquez Jr.? Like, seriously. Jaime basically does the same exact thing. Shoots a bad percentage from 3, is mildly okay from the field, will not give you tons of scoring on a nightly basis, is an average rebounder. Like, Bruce Brown and Jaime Jaquez Jr., in my opinion, right now, are just almost the same exact player. And having 2 of those guys on your bench, does that make a lot of sense? No, not really. You would just be acquiring Bruce Brown to have his salary come off the books. And like I mentioned, the only way I would be willing to take that back is if Miami got multiple unprotected first-round picks that could be valuable in the future that also unlock first-round picks for Miami to make maybe 5 tradable first-round picks available for the Heat. Next up on my list is the one that a lot of people are asking me about, and it is the straight-up deal with the Phoenix Suns. If Miami Heat find absolutely nothing on the open market, come back to Phoenix and say, yeah, we'll do it for Bradley Beal and all 3 of those first-round picks you got back for your 2031 first-round pick. That ranks just slightly ahead of Bruce Brown. That's how little I value Bruce Brown and his expiring contract. Because let's just face it, like, as much as we don't want Bradley Beal in this package coming back to Miami is very, very unlikely, Beal is still like a good player. Like, let's just be honest. Yeah, he's been in and out of the lineup for Phoenix, but as a guard, he can play, man. Averages 17 a game. He's efficient in terms of how he scores from the field. The problem with Beal is, like, they're asking him to play a role in Phoenix that he should not be playing. They have Tyus Jones. They have Devin Booker. They have Kevin Durant. So Bradley Beal is almost slotted into that 3 role and now the 6th-man role. In Miami, if he was on the team, he'd be able to be the starting backcourt mate with Tyler Hero in all likelihood, and maybe Beal can act as the 1 and him and Hero can work off ball with each other, and maybe it would work. But the reason why he is not sought after in the NBA is because of this contract. We have talked about it at length and at nauseum here at the channel, but I wanted to actually show you the numbers. I've always verbalized it's 3 years, no trade clause with over $50 million per season, but this is what it is. 50 this year, 53 next year, 57.1 in 26-27. It is a player option, and I think it's pretty safe to assume that Bradley Beal will be opting into that $57 million player option before he's an unrestricted free agent in 27-28. So you would be locked into Beal for 3 years because he has that full new trade clause. He'd waive it to come to Miami, but he'd probably not waive it again if the Heat wanted to trade him over the next 2 seasons. So if you take on Beal, you are pretty much stuck with him on the team, and you're stuck with a Beal, Hero, and Bam big 3 for the next 3 seasons, and I don't know if I'm in on that, even despite getting 3 first-round picks. But let me know your thoughts. If there are no better offers, and there's nobody coming to the table for Jimmy Butler, would you pivot and accept a Beal plus 3 first-round pick package from the Suns instead of just bringing Jimmy back to the roster? Type Y for yes or type N for no. The next package that I have ranked higher than Bradley Beal and 3 first-round picks is Andrew Wiggins plus salary and picks from Golden State. It seems unlikely that Jonathan Kuminga would be coming to Miami in any deal, but maybe the Heat could be interested in Wiggins, and I got to be honest, I've started to grow on the idea of acquiring Andrew Wiggins plus some first-round picks and salary filler, because Wiggins is actually having a pretty solid season for Golden State. He's become one of their top 2 scoring options with Jonathan Kuminga out of the lineup, Steph Curry struggling, and he's doing it pretty efficiently off the catch, leveraging his pump fakes into drives to the rim, averaging 17 points per game, shooting efficiently for both 3 and from the field. And this is also someone that's lengthy. He's athletic, not as athletic as he used to be as he gets older in age, but he would be a great connecting wing for the Heat. You plug him in at your starting 3, and your lineup would likely be Hero, Duncan, Wiggins, Ware, and Bam. That's an intriguing, versatile lineup. Now, the one reason why it would give me a little bit of hesitancy on acquiring Andrew Wiggins is his contract. He is under contract through the 26-27 season with a player option. We know Miami doesn't want any contracts going before this line, right? They want it all done before 25-26 because they want flexibility for the offseason before this season right here in 26-27. Now, Wiggins could opt out if he plays well and seek a bigger contract. Maybe he does that. But if he doesn't, you're on the hook for $30 million and wouldn't have a max slot available to sign a free agent like a Luka Doncic, a De'Aaron Fox, a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kevin Durant. Those are some of the guys available right now. They have not extended. We'll see if that changes. They probably will all extend, but that's just some of the examples that the Heat want flexibility with. But in terms of making your team better now, Wiggins would be a tremendous fit. He can hit a mid-range. He can hit a catch-and-shoot 3. He would provide you adequate defense on the wing. You'd probably move Haywood Highsmith to the bench or potentially trade him in a separate deal to take back other draft capital, or he's included in a multi-team deal with Butler. Wiggins actually fits really well. Yeah, he's a little bit older than Bam and Hero, but he would be a pretty solid kind of piece here on this roster, which would be pretty nice to have. But the number one package that I want is a deal with the Memphis Grizzlies that nets Miami Jaylen Wells plus salary and picks. And maybe the draft capital would not be that high. You might not get a first-round pick if you're getting Jaylen Wells back, but you could get a bunch of second-round picks, expiring salary, plus a young stud in Jaylen Wells. Wells was a second-round pick out of Washington State in the 2024 NBA draft, has been in the starting lineup for Memphis due to injuries, but stayed there all season long. He's been a revelation for the Grizzlies. He's helped them maintain an excellent season that has them top 4 in the Western Conference, averaging 11.7 points per game. He can defend. He's athletic. He's lengthy, 6'7" wingspan, 6'6" height, so he slots in as your starting 3, right in between your front court and back court. He can hit a shot off the catch. He can leverage that into a drive. I'm a big fan of Jaylen Wells. We've talked about him a couple times here on the channel, and he fits this young core to a T. He does. Think about it. If Jaylen Wells is added to your roster, your young core now features Bam Adebayo, 27, Tyler Hero, 25, Kel'el Ware, 20, Jaylen Wells, 21, 22, Nikola Jovic, 21, 22. That is a solid building block of a roster right there. Will it contend for a championship in the next 1 or 2 seasons? No, probably not. But if they all grow together and they all take the next steps, and maybe the Heat front office capitalizes on a nice little draft pick again or a win-now trade that doesn't cost the absolute house, maybe you can make a run in the Eastern Conference that isn't the most loaded right now. Jaylen Wells, I'm a big fan of his game. And if the Heat do make a trade, we will break the news over on my Twitter first before we come out and make a video and go live on the channel. So make sure you follow me over at Nic_Rohloff. And we talked about Hero being an all-star. You would have saw that graphic and saw the news first on my Twitter because we tweeted it out before the NBA did or even the Miami Heat did. So make sure you follow me over there at Nic_Rohloff.